Lots of other ways that we can honor Yule. Simple. We don't have to go overboard. You don't have to do all of these different things. Maybe just pick one thing that sounds fun to you. You can have an evening where you don't use overhead lights. You're just burning candles and you just sit around and maybe watch a movie in the candlelight and just relax and just have that beautiful, beautiful time together with your family. And turning off the screens, maybe not watching TV, not watching your phone, and just having some time for reflection. Hi, I'm Ashleigh, and welcome to the Big Crystal Energy Podcast. This is a place for the crystal curious, arcane-minded, and everything in the in-between. In this podcast, we will jump down the rabbit hole into the metaphysical, esoteric, occult, and spiritual realms. Nothing is off limits. I'm a mom, wife, an orthopedic physician assistant by day, and a seeker of all things spooky and kooky by night. I've spent my entire career in the medical field, but have always felt like there is more out there, and this is where we will explore together. We will have conversations with crystal healers, rock hounds, artists, musicians, spiritual coaches, magic makers, and anything woo-woo that strikes our fancy. Let's take our spiritual journey to the next level. So grab a crystal, pour a cup of tea. It's time to feel the big crystal energy. Welcome back to Big Crystal Energy, crystals, magic, folklore, and the unseen layers of everyday life. I'm your host, Ashleigh, the hostess with the mostest, and today we're continuing our Wheel of the Year series by stepping into one of the most powerful and misunderstood points on the calendar, which is Yule. But before we get into the episode, I just wanted to share about my weekend. So we are coming off of last weekend. We were in San Francisco, and this has become a tradition for several years now where my family and we spend a weekend in San Francisco around the Christmas, Yule, New Year's holiday. And I love it because in San Francisco, I live sort of close to both Sacramento and San Francisco. Of course, San Francisco really goes all out with the holiday decorations and is just the energy of the city and the decorations. It just puts me in the best mood and vibe. And so this past weekend, we did two separate things. We packed a lot into one weekend, but the first activity was we drove to San Jose. I know I said San Francisco, but we drove to San Jose and we went to the Winchester Mystery House because they have the Yuletide Oddities Market. And it was awesome, you guys. It was awesome. If you live in this part of California, I would recommend going. They have this Yuletide Oddities Market for like a month straight on Saturdays. And it's open from like 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. They have tons of vendors. It's on the grounds outside the Winchester Mystery House. So if you wanted, you could go shopping and you could tour the Winchester House all in one. We didn't have time to do a tour, but there were so many amazing, awesome, wonderful vendors there. So I did some holiday shopping. And then after that, and we got to see Krampus, which was a highlight for us. Little Jasper, my 3-year-old, he was smiling so big with Krampus. I was dying. I was like, most 3-year-olds would be absolutely terrified of Krampus. He was just thrilled. The other thing that happened that was so absolutely hysterical is we were walking around and we went into this area, into this room, and they had all these different vendors set up. And the one vendor had all these different horror movie characters. And it was like these, just their faces, and you could just buy them like for a wall, for a shelf display or something like that. Well, we were carrying Jasper and we walk up to this display and he's like, "That's Pennywise." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, my 3-year-old knows who Pennywise is." And these ladies that were running the booth were cracking up. And Jasper's like, "Pennywise lives in the sewer." And he was going on and on and on talking about Pennywise. And I'm just thinking to myself, how does my 3-year-old even know about Pennywise? I don't like Pennywise. I think Pennywise is terrifying, and yet he knows about him. So it was just absolutely hysterical. I got a video of Jasper talking about Pennywise, and oh my gosh, so funny. He is my child. He truly is. And so then after that, we had to hustle because then we had to drive from San Jose up to South San Francisco to go to Great Dickens Fair. And so I was all dressed up in my beautiful outfit. If you saw any of my posts on social media, I had my fabulous top hat that I got in New Orleans, which was so fun to wear again. And I had a big black like ballroom skirt on, and the kids looked super cute. But by the afternoon, Jasper just kind of wasn't having it. We forgot our stroller, so he wanted to be carried around. Jasper is obsessed with needing to be stuffed inside of a pillowcase at all times now. So we have to bring what he calls his suitcase. So he wants to have his legs and body shoved inside of a suitcase, and he doesn't want to walk. He just wants us to carry him inside the pillowcase. And he was rolling around on the floor at this place with this pillowcase. He was dragging this pillowcase all over San Francisco. It was absolutely horrendously disgusting by the end of our trip. But I don't know where he came up with this idea that he needs to be in a suitcase or, a pillowcase. But it's just his little quirkiness, and it is so cute. So we did the Dickens Fair, then we went out to dinner in San Francisco, and then Sunday we just bopped around San Francisco and did our holiday shopping, and we went to eat at one of our favorite restaurants called Loving Hut, which is a vegan place. And if you're ever in San Francisco and you want vegan food, you have to go to Loving Hut. It is absolutely incredible. The crispy mushrooms, that's where it's at, you guys. Crispy mushrooms. As far as what else am I doing for the holidays, we got a new fake Christmas tree this year. Normally, I put up one regular traditional tree, and then I put up our black gornament. Yes, you heard me right. Gornament tree, where I put up all of our spooky ornaments. Well, this year we've just been so busy. I'm going to be starting my house decorating project. So I decided to just put up our new big regular tree. It's a 9-foot tree. We have a huge entry in our house. So the tree looks beautiful. And I just put up our ornaments on the green tree. And I only put up about, I don't even know if it's less than half of the ornaments that I have, and it covered this huge tree, which is crazy. I have all my ornaments from when I was a kid. Of course, I always collect ornaments everywhere I go, everywhere we travel. I'm always getting new ornaments. So I have a lot. I have so many, and they're just so special. And I just bought a new adorable abominable snowman ornament this weekend. So I can't wait to put that on the tree as an addition. But my ornament tree, you guys, is fabulous. I have the coolest ornaments. If you know me, you know I love an amputated finger or toe. So I have finger and toe ornaments. I have bones, body parts, bloody zombies, headless horsemen, witches, just everything that you can imagine is on my tree. It is so fun. I adore it. I adore it so much. It's just the absolute best. So I told my kids, this year, Mom does not have time to do a huge decorating project with the holidays. But next year, once the house is redecorated and it looks fabulous, we will have all the decorations up and we will have a beautiful party. So that's the plan. So I am doing this episode about Yule, and I'm going to go through the wheel of the year for people that are maybe new to crystals, new to witchy things. We are going to just go through the wheel of the year. And you can celebrate it however you want to. You don't have to follow along with whatever I'm saying. If you prefer to just call it Christmas, you can. If you prefer to call it Yule, you can. If you want to do both, you can. You can do whatever you want. Oh my gosh, my eyes are watering. I got so excited to talk about this because Yule marks the winter solstice. So the winter solstice, which is on December 21st, the day after my birthday. It's my birthday week, guys. This episode is coming out the day before my birthday, but the winter solstice is the longest night of the year. And it's the moment when the sun reaches its lowest point in the sky. And for our ancestors, this wasn't just symbolic. It was actual survival, right? So winter was harsh. Our ancestors did not have the modern luxuries that we have. The darkness was real. It was cold. The living conditions were so different. They didn't probably have, like we have all of our modern heating and our stoves and all of our modern accommodations, and they didn't have all of that. So the winter months were so challenging for them. And so this time symbolizes the return of the light, right? So we go through the darkest night of the year, and now we are going to start seeing the light just start peeking back in a little bit more and more and more. In our modern world, this time of the year is just so loud and busy and filled with the pressure to feel joyful. I remember last year, I was just feeling so overwhelmed at Christmas. It just feels like so much is on our plate to do all the shopping, do all the decorating. I'm not a baker, so I don't bake anything, but a lot of women a lot of women, a lot of parents, they love to bake. They like to make holiday goodies, which I think is amazing. And if you love doing that, that's awesome. There's the pressure to do the holiday card and get the photos taken and see Santa and do all the Christmas activities and go ice skating. And I remember clearly, like one day I was at work and I was in the operating room and I was so overwhelmed because I just felt like as a parent, I was failing. I wasn't able to keep up with the pace of things. And I just was like, just voicing this out loud. And I work in surgery. And so I was sharing this with the surgeon that I work with, and the anesthesiologist in my room overheard what I was saying. And he's like, well, you're really just missing the point of the season. And it made me so upset because I was like, you know what? It's all fine and good for you to say that. But also, there is this ridiculous amount of pressure on us to do all of these things. So you can tell me that I'm missing the point of the season and I understand what you're saying, but when you don't carry, this person, he's like older, his kids are grown, his wife, I can almost 100%, she felt like I did when the kids were young because he was always working and he probably did not even participate in any of all this stuff, right? Like, so it's easy for people to say like, oh, you're missing the point, but unless you're in the thick of it, come on, it's so hard. It's so overwhelming. I pretty much know every mom I know is just like totally overwhelmed by this season because not only do we have all of our normal stuff, then we are supposed to pile on this huge load of other stuff and be joyful and be happy and all the feels. And, I feel it less probably than a lot of families do because here it's just me and my husband and my kids and my extended family all lives out of the area. So I don't even have it as hard as a lot of people do. But there is a lot of pressure. So to the point of the Yule season, historically Yule was about something completely different than how we present it now, how we present Yule or Christmas now. In the past, it used to be more about stillness. It was about families gathering close. It was about honoring the dark and tending to the hearth in your home and trusting that the light would return in its own time. And this time of year has always been considered liminal, which basically just means this threshold between the worlds. And if you're new to this type of chatter, the worlds basically means our world that we live in here and the spirit world. And this time of year, sort of like Samhain, is a time when the veil between the worlds is thinner. And it's a time when our intuition sharpens and emotions rise closer to the surface. And there's an invitation to slow down, reflect, and listen. But it's so hard for us to do that because we're feeling the pressure of all of these things. So today's episode, we're going to explore the ancient origins of Yule, this deeper symbolism behind traditions like the Yule log and the Christmas tree. We're going to talk about the crystals and correspondences of the season and a simple, meaningful way to honor the longest night without overwhelm, without obligation, and without rushing the darkness away. I know everybody's just can't wait for the dark season to get away, but I encourage you to just sit back, take a breath, make some hot cocoa, make some hot tea, and let's get into this. I love thinking about Yule and the way that it used to be because in our modern world, it is so challenging to think that it was ever like that. And I strongly desire a time when this season does not have to feel so rushed. But it's also a choice. It's also a choice how we choose to interact with the season. And I truly do want for my family, especially going forward, I want my family to know that this season is not just about gifts and presents and buying and overindulgence. I want it to be a time when my family, my children really know that it's about honoring that liminal space, honoring our ancestors, honoring the dark season, going more into the light season. And it's not just about Santa Claus and it's not just about all the commercialized BS that is out there. So let's step into the quiet magic of Yule together. So, Yule is a pre Christian pagan festival which was rooted in Northern European, Norse, and Germanic traditions. And it's celebrated at the Winter Solstice, which is the longest night of the year on December 21st. And it's a time that's really focused on, or it was a time that was really focused on survival through the winter, community, sharing the warmth, honoring ancestors, and it's the time of the rebirth of the sun. Yule was not aesthetic or symbolic in the way we often romanticize it today. It was an essential time. The fires that people lit were life-giving for them. I mean, they needed that heat. They needed that warmth, not only to stay alive, but to cook and just to survive those dark months. And, the community was all about like staying together and being safe. So it's very different. I mean, now you can get on Pinterest and Instagram and you can look up Yule and you just see all these beautiful table displays and decorations. And it's like, it was nothing like that back in that time. It's transitioned a lot over the years. Yule, like I said in the introduction of this episode, I mentioned that Yule is a liminal time and a time when we consider the veil to be thin, very much like Samhain. And Samhain, if you missed the previous episode and you're not that familiar with it, Samhain is also maybe you would consider it Halloween, or we also consider it the Witch's New Year. But with Yule, the long nights and the reduced daylight naturally shift our consciousness inward. And it was historically believed to be a time when ancestors were closer, where spirits were more accessible, and divination was more potent. And that could be whatever type of divinatory method you prefer. If that would be maybe you like to work with your cards during this time, or you want to work with a crystal ball and do scrying, or you want to work with a pendulum, any kind of divination that you feel called to do, it can be more potent at this time of year, just like with Samhain. And so our modern reflections of this energy include things like having heightened intuition during this time. Maybe you're having more vivid dreams. I know that I've been having some wild dreams lately. And a lot of us are feeling very emotionally sensitive. Not only is it from just the holidays and the overwhelm and everything, this is a time where people tend to just feel very sensitive. And there's a lot of nostalgia and reflection going on. Maybe you're reminiscing about the beautiful Christmases that you had as a child, and maybe things look completely different now. Or maybe you're trying to create these amazing memories for your children that maybe you did not grow up with. So, one of the things that is commonly associated with this season is the Yule log. And I'm sure that you've heard this term before, but then you think, what the heck is a Yule log? Well, what it is it represents the sun at its weakest point. It honors endings, death, and renewal. And it also shows fire as protection, continuity, and hope. So, how could you make a modern Yule log? Well, it's pretty simple. You can choose just a piece of log. You could decide whatever kind of wood that you want to use. Options would be if you wanted your Yule log to be based around strength, you could pick oak. If you wanted it for renewal, maybe you could pick some birch. And pine is associated with a life force, or any other type of symbolic piece of wood that you want. I mean, you can research that. And so what you do is you get your little log. Maybe it's only a foot long, and it has like a nice diameter, and you decorate it. You can put evergreen sprigs, you can put cinnamon sticks, dried orange slices. You can tie some ribbon or twine around it to hold everything together. And then on the top, you can make it so that you put 3 candles on the top traditionally. And so one candle will represent darkness, one is for transformation, and one is for the returning light. So you can light it on the night of the solstice or any nights during Yule. And then you want to just sit quietly and reflect on what you are releasing and what you're protecting and what you are calling into the next cycle. And the ashes from the Yule log and from all the little things that were burning on the top were traditionally kept for protection, or you could scatter them if you are, looking for fertility. That was something else that was used. And it's a reminder that nothing is wasted. Now, a lot of people don't know this about the Christmas tree. Okay. We just think of like people have a Christmas tree in their house. Why? What does it symbolize? We just know that it's for Christmas. Do we even know the actual symbolism behind a Christmas tree? Well, let me tell you, because the Christmas tree actually has pagan origins. Sorry, Christians, I know you're not going to want to hear that, but that's the truth of the matter. Evergreens symbolized eternal life and protection. They were brought indoors to ward off illness and spirits, and it was a form of folk magic and survival symbolism. Then we have the Norse influence. They had what was called the world tree, which was something that was all about connecting the realms, and there was this balance between worlds and cosmic order. Then we have the Christian adaptation, and which was basically like the pagan practices were rebranded, not completely erased, but they see the evergreen as eternal life, and candles as a sacred light, which I think is beautiful too. So now the more modern meaning is that the lights represent the returning sun. The ornaments kind of are an offering, and the gifts beneath the tree symbolize abundance and survival. So the Christmas tree is an ancient ritual hiding in plain sight. So I think, truthfully, I did not even know this. I didn't know what the tree symbolized. I didn't know, until I learned about this, I didn't know what the tree symbolized. I didn't know what the light symbolized. I didn't know why we put ornaments on a tree. I didn't know why we put presents under a tree. I didn't know any of that. And I think probably most people I know don't know why we do that either, no matter what religion you are. But this all has a pagan origin. And I just think that's so interesting. So, if you want some crystals and correspondences that you can use during this Yuletide season, I have several crystals that I think would be great for the season. And please don't run out and buy all these crystals. Let's just see if you have some in your collection. You don't need all of them. Maybe you have a few that you can put up on a little Yuletide altar space. That's fine. You use what you have. I'm really trying to work on that myself and not run out and buy stuff every time I feel called to do so. So the primary Yule crystals, number 1, garnet. It's for vitality, warmth, survival. We also have smoky quartz, which is very good for grounding, which I think a lot of us need during this time when it's just so chaotic. I love having a piece of smoky quartz around me at all times. Truth be told, smoky quartz is one of my favorite crystals ever. We also have obsidian, which is wonderful for protection and shadow work. Being that this is a liminal season where the veil is thin, this is also a great time to work on shadow work. Clear quartz, another fan favorite, the master healer. It amplifies whatever it is that you're working with, and it also symbolizes the returning light. Labradorite, which I have a piece of here. This is great for intuition and the veil thinning. So maybe you would want to set up a little space where you can have your labradorite and your obsidian. And I would put some smoky quartz with that. That would feel so good. Also, moonstone, whatever color of moonstone you like. You have your black moonstone, rainbow moonstone, peach moonstone, whatever you feel called to use, maybe whatever you have. It's great for symbolizing cycles, rebirth. There's a lot of wisdom in the darkness. And then we also have jet, which is that dark, dark black stone, which is great for ancestral protection. I used to be someone that really disliked the dark season. I disliked gloomy days. I disliked the cold. I disliked the fog and just the energy of this season. I loved the holidays, but I disliked going outside, and it always just felt so drab. But I've really reframed my mind around it because I'm just remembering, like, this is the dark season, and this is the time when we're supposed to be cozy inside, and this is the time when we're supposed to be with our family. And let's set up a beautiful spot where we can put our gorgeous crystals and have a candle and do some divination and do some shadow work and just turn this into a season that we look forward to. And that reframe has helped me so much. It makes me feel like I get home and there's things that I am excited to do. Whereas before, when I hated this season so much, I would come home and I would just want to put on my jammies, which I do at times, and I would just want to eat and just crawl into bed. But now I feel so much more energized for other things because I've really truly discovered the symbolism of this season. And I have decided that I am going to accept it and just do the things that feel right this time of year because it goes by pretty quickly. Well, it does here in California, I have to say. I don't live somewhere where it's that cold. We out here complain when it's like 40 degrees. So sorry about that. That's California cold. Correspondences for the season. Colors, we have black, red, gold, green, your traditional Christmassy colors. Herbs are pine, bay leaves, cinnamon, clove. The other symbols that we think of more commonly this time of year: fire, candle, evergreen, sun wheels. And you can use all these different correspondences and maybe you want to make a beautiful Yule altar. I have a little space in my kitchen that I like to make a little Yule altar where I get out some essential oils that I like to use, and then I'll do like a little diffuser and burn the essential oils. And then I like to have my crystals and my herbs and different little correspondences around that, and it just feels so beautiful. And then I also do my daily card pulls and set them up there so that I can reflect on that card throughout the day. One other thing that's really fun to do this time of year is to make a Yule simmer pot. It's a great representation of kind of this home and hearth magic. And an easy way to make this, and I will make a post on my Instagram, so if you want to refer back to that, but very simple to make a simmer pot. So what you can do is simple ingredients such as oranges, cinnamon sticks, cloves, star anise, evergreen. And what you'll want to do is you want to get a pot, and I like to call it my little kitchen cauldron. And you slice up the oranges and you put a few cinnamon sticks and everything, and then you put it in water, and then you just simmer it on the stove, and it makes this gorgeous, amazing scent. And when you are making the simmer pot, you want to think about what intentions you want to have fill your home, because the scent will kind of diffuse that intention throughout your house. And so if you want the intention of joy for the season, or you want the intention of stillness, or you want the intention that when you invite all your family over, everybody's going to get together. So maybe you are going to have a family gathering. Maybe you make a simmer pot, stir those intentions into the simmer pot, and have it gently simmering on the stove when your family comes over. And that gorgeous scent will just make everybody like, oh my gosh, that smells delicious. And then, your intention is being diffused throughout your whole house. Simmer pots typically symbolize hearth as the heart of the home, the hearth, the kitchen, the heart of the home. Most people gather in the kitchen. The warmth is a protection, and scent is a very strong memory for us, and it's very comforting. Now, I would suggest do not put crystals in your simmer pot. You could put them nearby, but don't put them directly in there. Lots of other ways that we can honor Yule. Simple. We don't have to go overboard. You don't have to do all of these different things. Maybe just pick one thing that sounds fun to you. You can have an evening where you don't use overhead lights. You're just burning candles and you just sit around and maybe watch a movie in the candlelight and just relax and just have that beautiful, beautiful time together with your family. And turning off the screens, maybe not watching TV, not watching your phone, and just having some time for reflection. Also, journaling is a great practice. It's always a great practice. You can think about what you're releasing and what light are you inviting back into your life. If it's not too cold where you live, you could go out and take a walk, look at the stars, think about the universe, think about our ancestors, the things that came before us, the things that are going to be happening in the future. And you can also decorate your home with intention, which most people do. Yule does not need to be elaborate. It just is a time to be intentional. So before we close out, I wanted to do a quick card pull from my Seasons of the Witch Yule Oracle deck that is by Lorraine Anderson and Juliet Diaz. And it's illustrated by the very talented Giada Rose. I absolutely adore this deck. So I'm going to shuffle and we're going to see what card comes up for us going forward into this Yule season. Yeah, every year is a little bit different. I mean, sometimes we have these traditions that we follow, sometimes we fall off. I think in my situation, it's easy because it's just basically us. So our tradition doesn't have to be the same every year. There's not that much pressure on us to have people over. But in your situation, I think it might be different and you have a lot going on, or maybe you have a huge family and it's so overwhelming and loud and crazy. Just maybe take some time just to find a few minutes here and there to just maybe go in another room and have some quiet time and light some incense and light a candle and do a little journaling, because we all need time and downtime. All right, I'm going to stop yapping and I'm going to pull a card. Okay, I chose, oh, well, look at that. The self-care card. What I was basically just talking about. We need to have some self-care. So this card says, if not me, then who? To tend to a wholeness, the parts in which surrender thy pulse for a heart that's nearer than any other. So here's this woman. She's laying down. I don't know, maybe she's standing. I guess maybe she's standing. And her hair is blowing in the wind and she has Christmas lights on string kind of floating around her. And she's holding a book or a journal or something. So let's see what it says here for self-care. So it says taking time for self-care is about more than baths, candles, and cups of tea. True story. There are many ways to embrace self-care. You may need to nurture your social self-care by spending more time with family and loved ones, or you may need to engage in more creative self-care by allowing yourself to make a mess and opening yourself up to creative expression. You may need to nourish your career self-care by taking a class or cleaning out old files. The most important thing about self-care is maintaining a balance across all areas of your life. Well, I personally don't know if there is a such thing as balance, but okay. Examine the areas of your life that have been neglected by exploring other cards in your reading or pulling additional cards for clarity. Okay, well, what have you ignored in favor of something else? And what can you do today to pay more attention to this area? Do not take these things for granted. You never know when it will be the last time you'll get a chance to spend with someone. You may think some things are here forever, only to find that these situations, people, connections, and opportunities have slipped by you in your neglect. Not only that, but by not tending to all areas of your life, you may find that you have felt incomplete. There isn't any one part of life that can create complete happiness on its own. So I think what it's really saying is that we do need to take care of ourselves, but we need to make sure that we're fulfilling all of these different aspects of our lives, right? So it's so important that you have a creative outlet. It's so important for you to have hobbies. It's so important for you to get your cup filled by spending time with family or friends or having a girls' night, or maybe you love art and you just want to go out and check out an art gallery. It's so incredibly important to have these things. Like for me, having my creative outlet, having the podcast, having this time is like one of the most essential things in my life. It has brought me so much joy. It has brought me so much fulfillment. And you have to have these outlets because our lives, we can just get in this routine where we're just going through the routine every day, every day, every day is the same. And we can get so burnt out and so frustrated. But if we take time to nurture ourselves and think about the things that we love and think about the things that we're interested in and actually pursue those things, it will make us such better individuals overall. And so I encourage you, we're going into a new year. I encourage you to think about the things that light you up inside. Is there a class that you've been dying to take? The internet, you can find a class for basically anything these days. Is there a local pottery studio and you could go make some pottery? I don't know. I mean, whatever it is that you want to do, nurturing your creativity is very important. And taking time for yourself is very important. And I know as moms, a lot of us are moms that listen to this podcast. It's not selfish to take time for yourself. It's not selfish to need to step away occasionally. It's essential because the more that we nourish ourselves, the more that we can nourish our family and our friends and our coworkers and the people that are around us. And so I am so happy that I pulled this card because I think that it's a good reminder for all of us, especially in this busy season. So as we come to the end of this episode, I want to remind you of something our ancestors understood deeply. Darkness is not the enemy. Yule teaches us that rest is sacred, that stillness is necessary. Not everything is meant to bloom all at once. The light doesn't return in a sudden blaze. It comes back slowly, day by day. It slowly gets there a little bit, little bit, little bit. And it's almost imperceptible how slow the change is until all of a sudden you're like, wow, it's light out until almost 8 o'clock at night, right? But the day to day, you can't really tell a difference from day to day. Um, if this season feels heavy for any reason, if you're tired, if you're reflective, emotional, or craving quiet, know that you're not doing it wrong. Your feelings are valid. You're responding exactly as this season invites you to. So whether you honor Yule light by lighting candles, if you want to create a Yule log, a simmer pot, working with crystals, or simply just allowing yourself some time to rest, every one of those choices is a form of magic. So thank you for spending part of the longest time of the year with me here at Big Crystal Energy. For me, on Sunday, which is the Winter Solstice, I am taking a class that is a virtual class hosted by Pam Grossman, who is my fave. And it's a Winter Solstice class, and I'm really looking forward to it. But if this episode resonated with you, feel free to share it with someone who might need the permission to slow down this season. But until next time, my friends, trust the darkness, tend to your inner fire, and remember, the light always returns. Bye. Happy holidays. Thank you so much for jumping down the rabbit hole with me. If you connected with this episode in any way, I would love it if you could share it with a friend Also, please tag me on social media. I'm at mystical.mama.ash or at Big Crystal Energy Podcast, mostly on Instagram. It helps so much getting my episodes out there and finding more magical, kooky, and spooky friends. Sending you all Big Crystal Energy. Cheers!